welcome everybody again to the Yankee to Pinstripe Chronicles.
Can I just say something here? Pre-record, Tats is like, I'm really glad we get to restart and refocus. I'm feeling pretty good now. We're going to refocus. And then he absolutely bombed it within 3 seconds of recording.
That's it. Hostile takeover.
We're doing it.
Yes. Hostile takeover.
Hostile takeover. We're taking it over, baby. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody.
Shush.
Welcome, everybody, to the Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm the Hostile Takeover host, Rob, and I'm here with Donald and Bobby Tats. So, guys, since this is Hostile Takeover and I'm the host, we're going to start with our old owner, Hal Steinbrenner. Made some comments the other day. He was asked why the Yankees were not in on the big market shortstops and first basemen. And, well, Donald, you've got the quote, so why don't you fill in the listeners/viewers what our owner had to say.
Well, we didn't have fans for 1 year, so look, I think a lot of the larger market clubs got hit the hardest. Our expenses, whether they are players or not, are normally greater, and obviously in New York, everything costs more. Look, I'm not saying anything that's not public knowledge. It is public knowledge. We have a huge payment of $80+ million to cover the bonds on the stadium. That payment is made if we have no revenue, and it was made in 2020, and it was made last year as well. We can talk about our revenues, but you got to pay attention to the expenses too. We've got significant ones. We've got partners and banks and bank holders and bond holders and things like that I have to answer to. But at the same time, it's always a goal to win a championship.
There's two issues with
so
that.
You have, there's so many things he's talking about. So how many excuses can you list in like one quote? The cost of expenses in New York. Was he going to blame the gas prices in New York too? The gas prices, the bondsmen, the stadium debt. He's going to service the banks. I mean, and then after that is, it's always a goal to win a championship. Oh yeah, right. Pull the other one, Hal.
The issue with that statement, right? There's a pro and a con to it, and I'll start with the con part first. Obviously, is one, regular people don't care when a billionaire complains about their finances. Right? We don't want to hear that. Right? It's falling on deaf ears. Nobody cares. Nobody. The pro to that is, okay, at least he's making an attempt to humanize himself with the fan base, saying, look, we understand that, a lot of money comes in, and we don't often think about the money that does go out. It's not just the money that comes in to cover the player's salary. There's also the operation costs of the stadium. It's all the employees that work behind the scenes, their salaries, the player development down, the minor league stadiums, in their parks, all those expenses. Yeah, we understand that there was a financial hit with a lot of ball clubs, and not just, and I don't think it was just isolated to just baseball that took a hit without having those ticket sales coming through the door for a couple of years. And I kind of understand what he's saying, but we just don't care.
Yeah. He mentioned that the bigger market team got hit.
That means the Dodgers are still spending.
That is exactly what I was about to say. The Dodgers are still spending. I mean, Colorado just gave Chris Bryant a big contract, for crying out loud. So I don't want to hear it. We know the Yankees make more money than any team in baseball. They make more money than most teams in all of sports. Once the season starts, the stadium's going to fill up. There's going to be sellouts left and right. People are going to buy the chicken buckets. They're going to buy the drinks. They're going to buy the jerseys and the hats, and they're going to make all that money. So $80 million should be nothing to him, considering how much the team makes. And he brought up revenue and what goes into spending. And yeah, the Yankees always have a high payroll, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're spending it the right way. Because when you're giving nearly $20 million to a closer who craps out 2 months a season, You're talking about being financially responsible when you just paid $50 million for a 36-year-old who's a good player, don't get me wrong, but that's not necessarily being responsible when you could have given that kind of money to a 27-year-old shortstop. But I don't want to get too much into that talk. So a lot of what he said, yeah, you can try to think he's humanizing himself a little bit, but we don't care because we just want to win. And this was your chance this offseason. Hey, you reset the luxury tax for what? Just to pay your bondsmen and your stockholders, whatever the hell excuse you want to do. So, yeah, it sounds like he's in the waste management business and he answers to other people, so maybe, I don't know what to really think. Is he in with some bad fishes? Maybe he's with some bad pretzels. Who knows? Whatever house
Tats would know about that.
Yeah.
He'll end up in the cesspool.
Don't play your hand too much there, Tats. But yeah, I mean, Hal Steinbrenner is a tricky one to figure out, but he kind of just played his hand right there. Everything we kind of knew about him, he just admitted.
He just admitted right there.
So thank you, Hal.
Let's look at another thing that we just don't care about is him crying poverty. When the Yankees' value as an organization is $5.25 billion, which is number one in all of baseball, the Dodgers are number two with a $3.5 billion value. So the Yankees have $2 billion on them. And the Yankees' only acquisition is Rizzo on a short-term deal. They've just gone and get Freddie Freeman. And their team is so stacked that they get to move Muncy over to second base because they've got such a incredible talent at first base, and their team is stacked to the gunnels. Like if you look at the Dodgers lineup, it's just awesome. So I don't want to hear about big market teams suffering the most because other teams seem to be doing pretty fine. You go right down here. The Cubs, they got themselves of a top talent from Japan. They got Suzuki, so they're the fourth value. The Giants, they did well. The Mets are number 6 with $2.4 billion value, and they've actually got the new tax threshold is all about the Mets because they know that the Mets are the ones that are going to have the highest payroll all the time. So I don't really want to hear about the Yankees' payrolls and stadium bondsman problems. To be honest, it sounds a little bit like a parody. It sounds like from Major League. It sounds like the Major League movie. I'm expecting Charlie Sheen to try and save the Yankees with his sunglasses. Do you know what I mean? I mean, listen, why as owners? Another thing, the optics are terrible.
Yep.
During spring training, while your organization is on the field preparing for the 162-game season, right? They tune on to listen to their wonderful magisterial owner to let them know that it's all about winning a championship, and he's talking about servicing bondsmen. What kind of optic is that? Is any other owner talking right now going, yeah, sorry, it's kind of like we are wanting to win a championship. I also have to pay service debt, stadium debt, bondsmen. It's really expensive in New York, too. I don't want to hear it. What is wrong with you? The optics are ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah, it goes
go ahead.
Go ahead, Rob.
No, I was going to let you finish your statement because I talked enough there.
No, so yeah, it goes. Well, that's just what I was saying. It's not what we want. We don't care what you're saying, but I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to reason of why he made the statements that he did. And as far as I'm trying for a championship. You still have one of the top shortstops on the market that is still very gettable. Sorry, for the if you want to really keep the real fans in the seats, you got to put a better product on the field. That's what you put the best product out there, you will sell every ticket, no problem. You will sell every chicken bucket, no problem. You'll see, the gift shops flowing with people. So think of how much money you would make at Yankee Stadium selling Correa jerseys,
Thank you. It's business 101.
It's that spend money to make money mentality.
That's it. It's business 101. Speculate to accumulate. And as a Yankee owner, you have the benefit of knowing that whatever you spend is coming back to you 50 times over if you make a headline move. Like when the Yankees brought in Roger Clemens, everybody was excited. When the Yankees brought in A-Rod, it was like, oh my God, A-Rod fever. And when the Yankees got Stanton, it was Stanton fever. And they make that money back in bobbleheads and frickin' this, that, and the other signed this merchandise of this new star player. And you get it back 10 times over because it's New York. And the Yankee fans are the biggest fan base in the world in baseball. It's the second most valuable sporting franchise in the world, along with the Dallas Cowboys and the Manchester United soccer team. That's it. There is no one higher than us. And you have that benefit of being the biggest market in the world, right? With insane fans that are ranting on podcasts, desperate to be excited. We're desperate to be excited. We don't enjoy being unhappy. I don't enjoy it. I want to be excited. I want to go on the Yankee website right now and purchase my Correa jersey or purchase my Freddie Freeman or Matt Olson jersey. That's what I want to do, but I'm being denied of that. And the only reason is because they want to service stadium debt. Because that's pretty much what he just said right there. Well, why did you not get a shortstop? Well, we've got Voit coming through and we've got service debt, stadium debts and bondsmen that I need to pay. Oh, well, That's great. That's exciting. And, SNY were saying that Yankee people in the clubhouse are secretly wanting the Yankees to sign Correa right now. Players in the organization are secretly hoping that the Yankees go and get Correa. Does that sound like they have a problem with bringing in a cheater? No, they want the best players. It's the team that wants to win a championship, but we're not going to sign them purely because of stadium debt. That seems to be what he's saying. And it's also because of the budget. But again, as you've said, Rob, they could have cut so many costs of all these albatross contracts that you easily could have fit Correa's contract in, and it would barely have affected the luxury tax situation. You could have reached the second luxury tax threshold, which we've already passed anyway, by getting rid of Chapman's stupid contract and Britain's and all these contracts that were just, they're just kind of albatrosses at this point. They're not really doing anything for us. The problem is, yes, Hal Steinbrenner is cheap, but he is still spending money. He's cheap, but he's also still spending money. He's still giving us a $250, $260 million product year on year. It's really on the general manager to put together a team that isn't so packed full of holes. And Brian Cashman has basically put all the resources in the wrong areas. He's fired all his resources into bullpen and DH type big power sluggers. And now you're looking at a landscape of, poor resource allocation in other areas of the organization. And that's why we're in the situation where the Yankees have a $260 million payroll and fans are screaming that we're cheap because we're not bringing in players that can fill these holes. But that's not it, Brian Cashman. He misallocated funds. It's very similar to when Dave Gettleman of the New York Giants, he put all his resource allocation in defensive tackle and running back and wide receiver. And now there's nothing for defensive end and quarterback, and offensive line. And you know what I mean? It's when you pile all your resource allocation into one area or two areas that don't make a massive difference to the whole scheme. And then that's where we're at right now with Brian Cashman. So it's a two-pronged problem. Yes, Hal Steinbrenner is cheap. I don't want to hear him talking about stadium debt, but also Brian Cashman just screwed up the money that he did give him. Yeah,
I think it's a good segue into what we talk about next here, because the Yankees are still involved in some rumors. Luke Voit is more than likely going to be traded, just a matter of to where. There are reports that the Yankees have been in contact with San Diego as a team that could potentially take on Voit. Also, that we are still in talks with Oakland for one of their available pitchers, Minaya or Montas. So If Brian Cashman wants to improve this team, he's going to probably have to do it via the trade market, and we do have the prospects to get a guy like Minaya and get whatever you can for Luke Voit. So I'll ask you first, Tats, what do you think about Voit? What is his best fit in the National League or maybe to Oakland?
I think as much as the National League would be good because they have the DH, I think the fact that he's still under control and he can, he's got a good bat. He's a good fielder, not great, but good fielder. I think that would be more enticing to Oakland to fill the role of first base. I think it'll be an easier atmosphere for him without the pressure of New York. It's a team, as much as it may seem like an insult to trade him to a team that decided that they're not even going to try this year, it's still a chance for him to just, all right, you know what? We may not be, it may not be a championship caliber team, but I can still showcase what I can still do on the field. So I think Oakland would be a good fit for Voit.
That's a very good point there. I personally think he's a good fit in San Diego because they can use him at first because right now they have Hosmer, or they have so many different players that can go over the place. But he's a DH first baseman. In that lineup, he doesn't have to do much. He's surrounded by studs left and right, so he can probably give them, if he's healthy, 30, 40 home runs in that lineup in San Diego. He's going to mash. So I see the point in Oakland because he really can go anywhere, if you think about it, because anyone can use his bat. But I think most likely we're going to see him go to San Diego or a team like Milwaukee go to the National League, and then they'll try to use prospects and maybe a major league ready player like Glaber to try to swing a deal with Oakland to get one of those pitchers and hopefully a catcher, Sean Murphy. That would be my ideal finish of this offseason if we're not signing Correa, which we're probably not. So if they can make
sorry, Rob, what's Voigt's arbitration this year?
It projected, I think it's about $6.5 million.
There's no way the A's are going to eat $6.5 million. I just do not see it. They would have to give us a significant contract in return to make it even viable for them. They're shedding costs right now, big time. So they aren't even looking to get too competitive this year. I think the best is, as you said, Rob, San Diego. It makes all the sense. Fernando Tatis has broke his wrist and he's out for 3 months. Now, I know he's a shortstop, but he's their big power bat. They will want to get some power in return for the next couple of months. Luke Voit can help out with that. Put him at DH. He's going to give you 25, 30 home runs in his sleep, and that'll help out with while they wait for Tatis to be rocking and rolling by July, August anyway. So I think that makes a lot of sense. From what executives are saying is Brian Cashman has lowered his asking price for Luke Voit significantly. So I can't see a way in which a trade doesn't happen pretty sure. I just don't know what we're going to get back for him. I think his value is lowered significantly by us already having Rizzo. Teams aren't stupid. They know the Yankees need to start shedding. So I don't see us getting a massive return for Luke Voit.
Yeah, no. Maybe, because he's not a free agent until 2025. So he's still got, some good control under him. So he might be, for a team that's trying to watch their money, more wisely than the Yankees are trying to watch their money. He's, I think there's going to be a lot of teams calling for him.
Yeah, if they ask him,
depends on who gives you the best, which is the best package for it.
Yeah, and there's multiple trade fronts they can go on. Voit has to be out the door at this point. Yeah. The writing's on the wall for him. He knows it. That's why he made those comments the other day. So he's still going. So he's out the door at some point. And back to what you were saying earlier, there's some talk around the clubhouse. The players don't know what's next. They don't know who can get traded. So there's kind of a shift in yeah, it's tense. Like they don't. I mean, Judge isn't getting traded and guys like that, but like Glaber could be out the door any second. I mean, they traded Urshela and Sanchez, and no one thought that was coming because of the time frame. So, yeah, anyone can go at this point, and Voit has to. There's no place to play him. Right now he'd be a backup first baseman in DH, and Stanton's going to be DHing if he's not playing the outfield. So you're not going to want to bat like Luke Voit on your bench when if he's in the lineup, he's giving you 30 home runs, like you said, in his sleep, especially with the power he has and in the sandbox that we play in. So yeah, it's if you can maybe you try to pull off some big, multiple player package with San Diego, where maybe you take on one of their pitchers. Blake Snell is a guy that's being brought up because maybe they try to move him. So you'd have to give up Voit and other pieces. There's no chance it's Voit for Snell. Or if you add Andujar to that trade, that's not happening. I don't care what certain people on Twitter think. Voit and Andujar is not getting you Blake Snell. You're going to have to add a prospect or two onto that. But the Padres have a lot of pitching. That's one thing they have a luxury of. They have a lot of starting pitching. So if they need the bat desperately, they might try to move one of those higher paid veteran arms. And I would love Blake Snell in this rotation, or even Clevenger. But, Clevenger's coming back from the injury, so he's actually right up the Yankees' alley. So maybe they go after Clevenger. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of options out there. But I do think they should swing and trade with San Diego, get what they can for Voit, and then try to go all in with Oakland to try to get Murphy and one of those two pitchers. I think Minaya would be the better choice because he is a free agent after the season. The asking price wouldn't be too high. I would think you wouldn't have to give up Volpe for sure. So maybe you start with Peraza and other pieces to try to make that move. But the point of it is there are options to still improve this team. Just will they part with the prospects to do so? And that's the thing, that they don't seem to want to do it. They don't want to spend the money. Well, they do in a way, but they don't want to spend the money or the prospects. So that's where as fans, we're like, the team is good right now, but it can be a lot better if you just open your damn wallet or stop hugging prospects so tightly and know that these guys don't always work out. Because right now you're holding on to 7 different shortstops that you're hoping all work out for a 4-player infield. So, like, you got to move somebody. And if you can help the team right now, you got to do it.
That's why that term half pregnant just comes into this, because they have a win now team, but yet they're holding on to their hugging prospects again. And all this seems to be is like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. This is where Brian Cashman has run this organization since that 2017 offseason, 2016, 2017. This is how he's run this organization. And he seems to keep shoving it down our throats, telling us this works. When you hug prospects, all it does, and you're not really giving them any of them opportunities. And if you do and they struggle, they don't really have a plan on how to develop them. So their value just deteriorates spectacularly. And so while that happens, you're still trying to win now, but you're not winning now enough. So it sort of looks like every offseason is the same. Well, the Yankees are kind of in and around such and such a name, but they're never the Yankees. The Yankees used to go, I want CC Sabathia, I'm getting him. I want Tejera, I'm getting him. And I don't think the Yankees were first on either their two lists when it came to free agency, but the Yankees were the Yankees and they just went and got it done. That's what I'm saying. Like, Cohen wanted Scherzer. He wanted him more than anybody else, and he just paid what it took to get him. You know what I mean? So Scherzer was like, I don't really want to go to New York. I don't really want to go to the Mets. Well, how was $41 million do you? Okay, that'll do fine. So what I'm saying is Freeman was not interested in the Yankees. Okay, he didn't want to go to the Yankees. He's a West Coast guy, but so was CC Sabathia, right? You just pay what it takes to get it done because he answered all our problems. We needed everything that he provides. We could have just signed right there and then by just paying the money that it took. So that's why I'm a little confused as to this. Well, we're sort of in on winning, but if not, that's fine because we've got a million prospects, but we're not going to move any of them in order to get better. So we're just kind of just sitting there kind of in between. Like, oh, we're waiting for these prospects to come through. In the meantime, we're just going to play all these 36 and 37-year-olds expecting the same result. And it's like, that's not how it works, man. You have to go all in on one or the other. If the Yankees truly believe that their prospects are the future, then go all in on that. And Yankee fans will just have to buy it. But if you tell Yankee fans that championships are the number one expectation, and then everything that you do is the opposite of that, then Yankee fans are upset. And then we're expected to look bad because of that, because we're upset because we're told that it's championship expectations. This is a championship caliber team. We're not stupid. It's not a championship caliber team. They could have easily made all the moves this offseason to make us a championship caliber team. And it wouldn't have cost all that much money. It would have cost us one star free agent, whether it be Correa or Freeman, and then you make a couple of trades to augment the team. And then you really got yourself a championship team, but they're not doing it. They're just sort of like, we're kind of in on this, but we're also kind of in on that. We're kind of in on prospect development, but we're also kind of in on hitting 500 home runs and just seeing how that goes. It's never worked before, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to work again. It doesn't work. You have to go all in on one or the other, and they're choosing both, and it never works.
Well, they can't make up their mind of what direction they want to go in. They really can't. And that's been our argument for the last couple of years doing the show, is there is no clear plan. He just kind of wings it as he goes, and it's not working. It's not going to work. It never will work. You can't just say, maybe I'll try this. The closest we got to it actually working was in 2016. And we, it's not like that, and that didn't produce anything other than hope for the future. But the future passed this team by already. That window's closed. It's not happening with this group that you brought up. It's so I understand he wants to hold on to some of the prospects to see maybe the next window will be a little, we'll have more sunshine coming through. But sometimes you gotta give it a little push, and that's making the right trades that fit the ball club, not just going and getting, a superstar just to get a superstar. It has to make sense. Like Donaldson, not that he's a bad player, but that move, it didn't make sense. Putting all your money towards shortstop or first base, that made sense.
Right. Not when you already had a third baseman and one of your plenty infielder prospects can move to third. So, yeah, if that was the move to just get Falefa on the roster, then it doesn't make sense at all. But maybe they have a lot more high expectations for Don. I think Donaldson's going to be really good this year. I just not for $25 million. That's my only argument. I like Donaldson, just not for the money. And I think that's most people's sentiment. But unless you guys have something else you want to bring up.
Sounds to me that the Yankees are going all in on trying to change the clubhouse, because obviously they finally realized everything that the fans have been screaming about, that just sending out a team of nice guys doesn't mean necessarily winning. And that's one thing that Donaldson brings, is an edge and a competitiveness. We've got that in Garrett Cole. We've got that in Aaron Judge, and we got that in that steely determination in Carlos Stanton. He doesn't get enough credit for being a very quiet leader, I think, in many ways. He leads by example. DJ LeMahieu leads by example, but they needed a little bit more fight in there. Now, you could have easily just gotten a manager which could have just, brought out the best in people rather than just relying on people's personalities to try and carry the day. But
there's no such thing as logic in Yankee baseball.
No, they don't do logic at coaching. So, they've obviously admitted that there was a problem in motivating, and they obviously couldn't get any coaches that had that strength, including Aaron Boone. So they've decided, right, we're going to acquire people with that strength. Now, Rizzo is as good a leader as you're going to come across. He is a great locker room guy. So that's a positive. And Donaldson is a big locker room guy too. He's a tough SOB. He's going to take no shit at all. So you kind of want that, and I think the Yankee fans will acclimatize to that. There was too many nice guys. There was too many people that were in their own heads. Gary Sanchez was in his own head. I was watching the Michael Key show. He's saying that Yankee executives were telling him that as soon as the Yankee fans got on him, it really affected Gary Sanchez, and it was really obvious on the field. Again, blame the fans. It's the easiest way to do it. But there was guys that were too sensitive. They've kind of cut the dead wood. Obviously, Clint Frazier was as sensitive as it got. So they're kind of cutting that out, and they're adding tougher personalities in. So to end the podcast on a positive, maybe that could help us because we obviously had that major issue. Do you guys agree with that?
Absolutely.
I agree with it as well. And on that note, since this is still hostile takeover, that is going to end it for us here today at the Pinstripe Chronicles. But be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Check out our socials in the description below. Check us out on sportanarium.com/player on SportsWire Radio and the Northeast streaming sports service on Roku. That'll do it for us here at Pinstripe Chronicles. And Bobby Tats, you want to finish off with your final line?
Yep. Wear your pinstripes with pride and play hard.
Play hard.